Happy Friday and welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we will get you caught up on everything you need to know. It was a long, late, and wild night in the NFL, Caroline, because Thursday Night Football did not disappoint. The Falcons were down 28-14. They get a touchdown. They go for two. They don't make it. They get another touchdown. They go for two. They don't make it. They get the ball back. We get a third and 28 that leads to a fourth and 14 that leads to a field goal. Falcons take down the Buccaneers in a wild ending. A team that had absolutely nothing to play for went out there and beat a team with their backs against the wall, and the playoff picture in the NFC just got a little bit murkier for the Buccaneers.
Look, as much as I would love to give Atlanta their flowers, I'm going to start on the Tampa Bay side of things because that's the story of this game, was the massive and epic choke job by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everything that you just laid out, Tampa Bay is playing for everything. That the race in the NFC South is uncomfortably close if you're in Tampa Bay. That you had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. It was 28-14 in the fourth quarter. The Atlanta Falcons had committed 19 penalties. 19 penalties. They were facing a 3rd and 28 and then a 4th and 14. And Kirk Cousins, old man Kirk, was able to march the Falcons down the field to win that football game. I mean, it was just a choke job by epic proportions by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think if you're Todd Bowles waking up this morning, you're looking around and thinking, how in the world did our defense put us in a position like this? How in the world would anyone in the Tampa Bay front office and that defense itself be in a position to give up a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter? And look, the defense absolutely deserves a massive slice of the blame pie. Baker Mayfield deserves a massive slice of the blame pie. You know, he had the interception, which was a bad throw, bad pick, but also just a good play made by the defensive back. So you hate to see that. That obviously gave the Falcons momentum. But then whenever you're in absolute put up or shut up time, you're up 2 points in the fourth quarter. You're at a 1st and 10 with 2.5 minutes to go. And then Bucky Irving loses 4 yards. Now you're facing a 2nd and 14. That throw to Emeka Egbuka was just a bad throw. Like, yes, of course, like Emeka Egbuka, in that moment, he needs to come down with it, but I'm not going to put that on the rookie receiver. I'm putting that squarely on the shoulders of Baker Mayfield. And then you're looking at a 3rd and 14, and Baker Mayfield takes a sack at a moment that you absolutely positively cannot take a sack. And I think it just goes to show, both sides of having both sides of the experience of a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Because so many times early in the season, a receiver comes down with that 2nd and 14 throw. So many times early in the season, when the pendulum was swinging the Buccaneers' way, Baker Mayfield evades that sack. Like, they had so many times in that instance, all they needed was just to pick up the first down. And then you could get into victory formation, and then you can live to die another day. And yes, it was a lot closer than everybody wanted it to be. And yes, it was a lot closer and more uncomfortable than anyone wanted to admit, but you win the game. But at no point, with 2.5 minutes left, with a 1st and 10 or a 2nd and 14 or a 3rd and 14, was Baker Mayfield or that offense able to make a play. And that's how this Tampa Bay team is going to win games, is offensively. And the offense let themselves down. The defense let them down on a 3rd and 28. It was just an absolute crumbling of epic proportions in the fourth quarter by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm going to say the same thing about Tampa Bay that they should be saying, and I'm sure they are saying about themselves. Everything was inexcusable. If we want to sit here and say, hey, Baker hasn't been himself because of the shoulder injury that's bogged him down this year, the shoulder injury didn't create the interception. The interception was he missed the guy in the flat. He didn't see the defender where the defender was. That's inexcusable, right? Some of the play calling late in this game that just felt weirdly conservative and then weirdly aggressive all at the wrong times for all of it felt inexcusable. The defensive miscommunications over and over and over again, especially around Kyle Pitts. Like, I get it, he beat you once, but when he's beating you at a historic level, he put up 7% of his fantasy points for his entire career last night. That's how big Kyle Pitts was, right? 166
I'm shocked it wasn't more
yards in this. I know. That's in fact is Kyle Pitts was probably finally the Kyle Pitts we all thought we were going to see week in and week out. Like, that's just inexcusable from the Tampa Bay defense. The number of things that were a collapse here, and this is the week that it was supposed to get right. Because we've been excusing every week, well, Tampa Bay's going to be fine. Baker's hurt. They've been banged up. They'll be fine. They need to get Mike Evans back. Well, guess what? They did. They got Mike Evans back, and he was dominant. And Baker Mayfield was there, and Baker Mayfield can't blame the turnover on injuries. Like, this is a Falcons team that did everything they could to lose the football game with the penalties and just the absolute missteps, and they torched. When Kirk Cousins takes you for 373 yards, when Kirk Cousins takes you behind the woodshed like that, when Kirk Cousins plays so well that you're sitting there saying, maybe Kirk can start somewhere in the league next year. No, this was not a statement about Kirk Cousins. This was a statement about the level of suck that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers brought to the defensive side of the ball last night. And when your back is against the wall and you do that, man, it's inexcusable. That is the only word that summarizes what they did last night.
And I think even what happened after the game was inexcusable as well, because everything that we saw in the fourth quarter, 1,000% totally and completely unacceptable for a team that is playing for everything, that is playing for their playoff lives. To just sit down and lay an egg that way, incredibly uninspiring. But then you saw Mike Evans walk off the field before the field goal even went in. And then you heard Todd Bowles in his press conference, a very, F-bomb laden press conference. But he said, we as coaches, we've done all we can do. It's up to the players now. The players have to execute. There's no more that the coaches can do for this team. That, to me, Mike Evans walking off the field, and look, it was great to see Mike Evans back. Hated to see Baker Mayfield throw him a couple of hospital balls, like that one early in the game when he got absolutely obliterated by that Falcons defender, and you could see him on the sidelines. He kept grabbing his lower back, and kept screaming, again, whole lot of F-bombs on the sidelines. Mike Evans walking off, Todd Bowles putting the blame squarely on his team. Shows to me a locker room and an organization that just doesn't have very good or very strong culture. The way that they could just melt down against a team that had no business being in the game with them shows to me a real lack of culture on that sideline. I thought it was ridiculous, Buccaneers fans saying, fire Todd Bowles, because I thought, what's the man supposed to do? This team's been so banged up. Baker Mayfield's banged up. Mike Evans has been banged up. Chris Godwin's been banged up. Mike Igbuka's been banged up. Bucky Irving's been banged up. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Like, what's a head coach supposed to do to overcome just some of those weird and fluky injuries that's been facing this team? But I don't know. I'm not on the wholeheartedly on the fire Todd Bowles train. But after we saw the level of quit that we saw last night from the Buccaneers team, I'm starting to think that there's maybe some credence to moving on from Todd Bowles. The culture in Tampa Bay, after what I saw last night, after what we heard last night, feels broken.
Leadership needs to step up here. And this is where I constantly ask this question of every team. Look around and ask yourself, who's the one guy on the team that is going to bring everybody together, and who's the one guy on the team that's going to find accountability? Because to me, even with the coaches, also with the players, when you come out that way against that Falcons team, you've got an accountability problem all the way across the board. And now, look, the season is still in front of Tampa Bay. If they win their way out, they'll be in this thing. But now, suddenly, the door that was just a little bit propped open is wide open for Carolina. If you are in Carolina, where Carolina is today, oh, man, you're popping bottles. You're getting a little excited because let's be clear here. This is very simple. The Carolina Panthers play the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. If they win that game, their path to the playoff is simple as this. All they have to do is win one of the two remaining games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they're in. That's it. So the Panthers have the Saints this weekend and then the Bucs the following weekend. They could literally be clinched into the playoffs in a week and a half. That is crazy to be saying out loud. Everything's still in front of Tampa Bay. They can win out. They can go to the playoffs too. But I just watched them lay an egg when they couldn't afford to lay an egg. So if I'm a Panthers fan right now, Caroline, I am swaggy walking my way into work. I put an extra pump of sugar-free vanilla in my iced coffee this morning. I am feeling good.
And yeah, I think that if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you're sending, fruit baskets to Atlanta Falcons fans everywhere. You're sending fruit baskets to Kirk Cousins and saying, thank you, Kirk. Thank you for doing that for us. But let's pump the brakes a little bit here. I feel like so much of the rhetoric after last night was, woo, Carolina Panthers fans, pop the champagne. We're going to the playoffs. Still have to take care of business. You still have 3 divisional games left in the next 4 weeks of the season. You still get the Bucs twice. You still get the Saints, and you still have the Seahawks. Which it's week 17, so it's not quite the final week of the season. The Seahawks are still going to be playing for a lot, understanding that the NFC West could be anybody's NFC West at this point. When I say anybody, it's really just the Rams or the Seahawks. So I am not going to all of a sudden get up here today and say, okay, Carolina Panthers fans, pop your confetti because we're having a party here in Charlotte. I'm not getting there yet, but the Buccaneers just handed the Carolina Panthers a nice, cutesy little present with a big old bow on top after blowing it last night. The Panthers fans should be feeling good, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Oh, Carolina, scared money don't make no money. I'm all in. Carolina Panthers are going to the playoffs. They can lose to the Seahawks, still make it in. All they got to do is beat the Saints.
For sure.
They can beat the Saints. And then one of the 2 against Tampa. Ooh,
they didn't beat the Saints.
I'm in.
They didn't beat the Saints at home.
That's fair. Okay,
Look, the
I don't
Saints are a
need your
bad
logic.
team. You
Right?
shouldn't
I want to
lose
live
to
in
the
my
Saints
feels.
twice.
I want to live my feels. But then I think we can also learn something from Tampa Bay that applies to the entire NFL. This year, particularly as a general football culture, we've been slow to allow our mindset to adapt on different teams. We watched the Buccaneers come out to a flying start, and it feels like we've been slow to step back and say, hey, maybe they're not who we thought they were. We've been slow to let the narratives around the Ravens change. We've been slow to let the narratives around the Chiefs change. If there's any real thing that we can learn from Tampa Bay, it's that maybe we should start looking at the season in shorter segments, Caroline, so that we can get a better, accurate representation of who that team is today, because it feels like what we're doing is we're saying, I don't care about the records. I know what we're going to see. And this year in the NFL, I don't think you can bank on what you're going to see at all. You can only bank on what you've seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks to decide what this team looks like moving forward.
We all want to make our minds up in August. We all have a picture and an idea in our heads of how seasons should go, of which teams are good, which teams are not very good, and we compartmentalize those early in the season. And sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable whenever the process doesn't play out how we think it's going to. Like, how long has it taken us to kind of give up on the Ravens? How long has it taken us to kind of give up on the Chiefs? There's a large faction of sports fans that aren't giving up on the Ravens and the Chiefs. I don't even know if I'm totally wholeheartedly giving up on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 6-7 and haven't really done anything impressive this season, but we're like, wait, I don't know. It's the Chiefs. So I think we just have to subscribe to the belief that this season in the NFL is weird, especially in the AFC is weird. I think we have to subscribe to the belief that in the AFC South and the NFC South, 2 divisions, Fitz, that you and I said here at the beginning of this show in August, we said worst divisions in sports. They're actually turning out to be incredibly intriguing divisions with a lot of jockeying at the top. I just want to know how we got here with the Bucs. We can say injuries all day long, and that is a really big part of it. That is, a part of the blame pie of why the Bucs may miss out on the postseason altogether. But was last night giving up a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter? That was an injury. How did we get here with the team that has 3 of the best receivers in the National Football League, the best trio, I think I can say wholeheartedly, in the NFL, with a quarterback that looked like he was playing MVP caliber football at the beginning of the season, with a reliable run game with Bucky Irving? How did we get to this point?
We got to this point because to your everything you just said, as much as we've talked about the lost opportunities for this offense, Tampa Bay put up 28 points last night. In the modern NFL, when you put up 28, you should be able to win a football game. I mean,
against a bad team, nonetheless.
I'm looking at Kirk Cousins, 30 of 44 for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a passer rating of 117. I'm looking at Bijan Robinson, who goes for 19 carries for 93 yards, averages almost 5 yards a carry. If you factor in Algier with that too, is a team 21 rushes, 111 yards, and a touchdown, 5.3 yards per carry. I'm looking at Kyle Pitts, 11 catches, 166 yards, and Harry Douglas this morning did a great breakdown on the flat-out miscommunications by the people on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they needed to be able to cover Kyle Pitts. We are here right now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because especially last night, their defense didn't come. Their defense didn't show up, and their defense look, you're right to say that we've been hesitant to give up on certain teams. I am out on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. If they make the playoffs, congratulations. If you make the playoffs,
They're not gonna do
I hope
anything.
you guys celebrate that. You're not going to win any games. Like, I'm out. We don't need to pay attention to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers anymore this season because their season is effectively done. We're at the point where we care the most about Super Bowl caliber teams, and clearly last night the Tampa Bay Buccaneers reminded us that while they're a good story and we love Baker, they ain't a Super Bowl team, and it's not even close. All right, we got a lot to break down and a lot to preview for this weekend because it is a wild weekend in the NFL. But coming up, the latest developments in Michigan. What's it mean for their next head coach? Could that guy, Kenny Dillingham, be headed to Michigan? We'll answer that question. Michigan needs new energy in the building. That new juice is Kenny Dillingham. This is such a weird time for all of this to be happening. We're all aware of Michigan and the fact that Sharon Moore obviously has been fired with cause. We'll keep you updated as we get more news, concrete news on what's actually happening there. But it leads to this tremendous speculation. Caroline, this is always one of the weirdest things you see. You see everybody come in and say, got it, figured out who we need. It just happens to be somebody else's coach. Like, this is so, it feels to me a little bit like you're just going out presumptively talking about somebody else's girlfriend. Like, well, I'm going to go steal her. I need somebody. But Kenny Dillingham is Arizona State's head coach right now. On 3 Sports has been all over the fact that his name is being bannered around for the Michigan job. Is this a fit? Do you see this happening?
I could see it happening because there's a press conference clip that I can't get out of my mind when it comes to Kenny Dillingham. And he was fired up, basically sending a PSA out to all of the local bars and restaurants and businesses in Tempe and in Phoenix saying, look, it costs you no money to set up NIL deals, to have a burger on your menu, for Sam Levitt, to have like a shot named after a player, to have like this promotion going for our players. Like, he wants more and more local businesses to get involved in Arizona State football NIL, that to give his players more opportunities. You don't have to do that at Michigan. You don't have to beg and plead for money and investment and buy-in from local businesses and from alumni. I mean, look, you got Dave Portnoy out here talking about, okay, who needs cash? I got it. I'll sign the check. I'll write the check for you. So that's where I could see this job being attractive to Kenny Dillingham is all of the politicking that he has to do, the galvanizing that he has to do with that fan base, the amount that he has to win to make Arizona State fans care is at a much higher clip than to make Michigan fans care. That's why I think it would be intriguing for him. But I just think about Kenny Dillingham's from Phoenix, Arizona. He grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. He coached Arizona high school football. He is a Phoenix lifer. I think it would be really hard to pull him away from a place that is home, a place that he has elevated to the level that it is right now. Like, to bring Arizona State to the college football playoff is so impressive. In today's college football, when it feels like the big only get bigger, Kenny Dillingham has Arizona State nationally relevant. I think if I'm Kenny Dillingham and knowing the ties that he has to that area of the country and to that state and to that school, it'd be really hard to leave.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's no world where Michigan isn't a better job than Arizona State. Let's be clear about that.
100%.
Like, we've debated with Lane Kiffin what the better jobs are. But I also want to be very clear about this. Arizona State will be as good a job as Arizona State wants to be. And this is the modern world of college football. You want to keep Kenny Dillingham, pay him. You want to keep your head coach, figure out your NIL. Like, there's money talks in this entire situation. And, for any school that wants to come in right now and say, oh, well, we don't have the resources to compete. No, you choose not to find the resources to compete. If Vandy can figure it out and Indiana can figure out, if Indiana can become the number one team in the country, then Arizona State can do whatever the hell they want to if they choose to spend the money on it. That's what I've been saying for the last several years is the most empowering part of this modern iteration of college football is that you are who you choose to be based on the spending that you do. Look at Dillingham's contract. He just got a contract extension and a raise to $5.8 million, which is incredible. That's incredible money to every one of us that are sitting here talking about it or watching it. But then look at how much other college football coaches are paying. If Arizona State wants to keep their coach at this point, they're going to have to ask themselves, are they comfortable paying in that $9 million range? Because once Michigan gets involved, that's the new level we're talking about. So if you're Arizona State and you're saying, well, you can't take our coach. Well, it's not about somebody taking your coach. It's about you doing what you have to do, raising the money that you have to raise, and finding a way to compete in what is a wild, wild west of capitalism in college football. If you want to be part of that, then come play with the big boys. And if you don't, then you're going to get outspent. And if Dillingham wants to leave because you aren't spending the money, that's not a Dillingham thing. That's an Arizona State thing.
It is, because Kenny Dillingham just got a raise worth $5.8 million. That is nothing. That is less than half what they're paying their starting quarterback by year. That is that's no problem for Michigan. And I'll say the same thing about Kenny Dillingham that I will about Lane Kiffin when he was deciding between staying at Ole Miss and going to either LSU or Florida. If Kenny Dillingham stays at Arizona State and consistently wins 10 games a year, he'll get a statue. He will be there forever. If Kenny Dillingham wins 10 games at Michigan, which, let's be honest, in the Big Ten right now, with Indiana on the trajectory that they're on, with Ohio State, with Oregon, with USC, winning 10 games at Michigan is significantly more difficult. And it'll probably get you fired. If you don't beat Ohio State often enough, if you're not getting to the college football playoff or being in the conversation year in and year out, if you're not getting to the Big Ten championship year in and year out, your days are probably numbered at Michigan. So Kenny Dillingham can either stay at Arizona State, which is home, and let's be honest, a much better place to live than Ann Arbor, Michigan, but it's also a program that has maybe more limitations than Michigan has. I think Michigan's one of the best jobs in the country. That's exactly what I said about Lane Kiffin going to LSU. I think LSU is one of the best jobs in the country. How easy is that to pass up? I also have to think about a little birdie that I'm sure is chirping in Kenny Dillingham's ear. Kenny Dillingham and Taylor Lewan played high school football together. They're good friends. They go way back. Watch the Bussin' with the Boys podcast between Kenny Dillingham and Taylor Lewan. They're tight. They go way back. Where did Taylor Lewan play college football? Where does Taylor Lewan love very, very much? He went to Michigan. He loves Ann Arbor. He's a Michigan guy. So not going to say that Taylor Lewan's going to be the difference in Kenny Dillingham staying or going, but I have to imagine that your buddy, your old high school teammate, who is, the face of the Michigan program or a face of the Michigan program, is going to be saying, hey, it's a really great opportunity. He's definitely going to be picking up the phone and saying, Kenny, get your butt to Ann Arbor because we want you here.
I've spent some nights on Lower Broad with Lewan. He's a convincing salesman. I'm not going to lie. All right, that's not the only name that's in the cards here. Another rumoring name that's coming out here. Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Browns brilliantly, has a quote: "Michigan has interest in Browns offensive coordinator Tommy Rees for its head coaching vacancy. League sources tell Cleveland.com." And this is one of those moments where this one is a little surprising. Look, I know allegiance and fandom don't always matter in these situations, but Tommy Rees was an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Tommy Rees's dad works for Notre Dame still to this day, I believe. I have a hard time finding in my head the logic that takes the Notre Dame guy to the Michigan sidelines just because of the rivalry aspect of what it means. But I also think people need to separate two different things here. Tommy Rees, I know people that played under Tommy Rees that have had him as a coach and have believed for years that he is going to be a successful head coach, college football head coach. I think there are plenty of people at the college level that really like Tommy Rees. It's a big leap to have your first ever head coaching job be Michigan. And also, I just think whatever looks broken in the Browns offense this year is easy to pile on Tommy Rees. I would argue that maybe Kevin Stefanski has a lot more to do with that than Tommy Rees and the talent that they have. We'll see. But Tommy Rees is a respected coach in college circles. I just think it's a huge leap to suddenly become the head coach of Michigan.
He was the quarterback at Notre Dame, not even just the offensive coordinator. Respected enough to get an opportunity young, early in his career, in his early 30s, to be Nick Saban's offensive coordinator at Alabama. So yes, 1,000% very, very well respected, a very bright, young offensive mind. But I'm with you, to take the leap from being an offensive coordinator in college for 4 years, and then now an offensive coordinator for a couple of years in the NFL, to then being the head coach at Michigan, that feels like a really, really big leap. I think the same thing about Bryant Haynes, the defensive coordinator at Indiana. His name has also been thrown around a lot, and he's a little bit older than Tommy Rees, still very young. His name has been thrown around a lot, and I would say the same thing. To go from being a coordinator at Indiana to now all of a sudden the head coach at Michigan, not to say that they can't do it, not to say that that path from coordinator to head coach isn't still a very valid one in college football. I just think that college sports are so wildly different now that you need to take that path maybe at a smaller school or have more experience being a coordinator under an experienced head coach in order to take that leap to a place like Michigan. Obviously, Dan Lanning did it. He was a defensive coordinator at Georgia and then got the job at Oregon. I think anyone in America would sign up for the efforts of Dan Lanning to be their head coach. It is a big leap to go from coordinator to Michigan, and the amount of cleaning up that the next head coach at Michigan is going to have to do. That reputation is tarnished at this point. You're going to be slapped with a whole lot of NCAA violations that you're going to have to navigate through. Are you, as a first-time head coach at 35 years old, equipped to manage that?
Yeah, and are you ready to jump right in from the Cleveland Browns to the NIL world of whatever it looks like in modern college football? Like, it's amazing, but being in college football 3 years ago versus being in college football today are two very, very different things. All right, coming up next, we got to get some insights on who's headed where in the NBA in the most incredible way possible. The Zodiac GM going to join us next. We're going to get the sign from the universe on who belongs where. What are the chances of both Jalen Johnson and Giannis Antetokounmpo sharing the exact same sun and moon combination? Giannis Sagittarius with an Aquarius moon. Jalen Johnson Sagittarius with an Aquarius moon. That from the Zodiac GM. He joins us now to talk NBA rumor landscape through a cosmic lens. Absolutely crushing it on social media. The Zodiac GM, Eric Torres. Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it. We'll get to your best fits in a second. But first, how do you get into this? Because nobody does this the way you do it. You built a massive following doing it.
You're right. So I've always been intrigued about zodiac signs for pretty much all my life. So I think including sports into the mix was a unique, interesting thing that I wanted to get into. So eventually, starting roughly around 2018 season, that's how it all started. I grew this full database analysis with full teams and player signs, and from that point on, I started making theories and methodologies, and it grew from that point. So yeah, I've always been intrigued about signs.
And it has been so fun and intriguing to watch your entire process unfold on social media. So just so our listeners can kind of get up to date on some of the things that you've been working on, what was maybe a trade or a move recently in the NBA that you just knew would not work out because the zodiac signs did not align?
Well, as of late, last season when Dame Lillard, or a couple seasons ago, Dame Lillard joined the Milwaukee Bucks, that was one of the more major ones that I looked upon and said, you know what, I don't think that's a good fit for Dame Lillard himself. It's not that he's a bad player, it's just that you have to find the right energies to surround him being a Cancer leader energy. So I think from that point on, I felt that it wasn't a good fit. But yeah, so that was one of the bigger examples. But aside from that, the Luka Doncic trade was actually a neutral trade on both sides, and so far you see how it's panning out, especially on the Dallas side. So yeah.
I love the idea of the trade analysis from your standpoint. This is beautiful. So let's let you cook. Giannis Antetokounmpo, where should he land to get the best synergy around him for the Greek Freak?
Well, check this out. There's a team out in the West that's primed and ready to win it all. I think they have the right structure. And as soon as they acquire a player of Giannis's energy, it would bring him to an even elite status. And that team is the Houston Rockets. That team is built for Giannis's energy. If you take a look back at Giannis's championship season with the Milwaukee Bucks, the head coach there was Budenholzer, who was a Leo. Now, guess what? Ime Udoka is also a Leo. So that alignment alone is very strong, but then yet you have the talent in Kevin Durant and some of the younger guys there on that roster.
This is incredible. And I think of maybe a peek behind the curtain or maybe a peek into the future of where we could see Giannis, maybe, just maybe. But there is another man who has been in the trade conversations as well. That's Anthony Davis. Where could some A-plus landing spots be in the Zodiac terms?
So there's two teams I'm keeping an eye out for Anthony Davis, and that's the Pistons, Detroit Pistons, and also Orlando Magic. Now, the Pistons, they already have a good structure in place, but including a player like Anthony Davis with his experience, championship pedigree, it will be a strong fit for Anthony Davis to join the Pistons, along with the Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic signing Desmond Bane over the season, along with Franz Wagner and Banchero. Also, it's a strong fit for a player like Anthony Davis.
What about Ja Morant and the Grizzlies? Okay, it's not working out there. So where could you see Ja go to unlock his peak A-plus potential?
You're right. So Ja Morant was an interesting situation. He was sort of like that outlier energies amongst all these energies that are compatible amongst themselves, right, with the Grizzlies. But if you fit him in a team like the Atlanta Hawks, I've mentioned this before, having a one-on-one trade, even with Trae Young. Trae Young would be a great fit for Ja Morant. Also, Chicago Bulls is another good fit for Ja Morant.
So let me ask you one more on that real quick. Like when you're talking about five guys, right? So this is just always because you're talking about who fits right with Giannis. How much, like, is it one of those, or with Ja? Sorry. Do you need Ja in the middle and then everything around it surrounds? Like, how do you decide when you got 5 or 6 guys in one locker room, 10 guys in one locker room, which sort of sign is the main presence and how to build around it?
Well, the thing about Ja Morant, he's a dominant sign. He's a Leo. He's a double Leo at that. So a double fixed energy. So Leo's all about pride, right? So the thing, I always like to look at ratios, and each and every team has their own dynamics, right? So the dynamics with the Memphis Grizzlies is that they're dominant on a certain element type, right? But John Morant being a fire sign, it sort of sets off that imbalance. But since he is their go-to player, their featured player, it may or may not work. But the thing about the Memphis Grizzlies is that they have enough pieces to be cohesive to allow John Morant to run with that team. But it is causing a little bit of friction. As you notice, Memphis Grizzlies have been on a winning streak as of late, all without John Morant. So those are certain factors that I like to look for. I like to look at ratios of starting lineups in particular and so forth. So I think John Morant with the Memphis Grizzlies, not the best fit for him, but if you put him in the right situation, like in Atlanta with Jalen Johnson, I think it'll be a great scenario for him.
So when you're looking at compatible energies, what do you prioritize? Compatible energy with a coach, compatible energy with another star player, compatible energy with the entire starting five? What are you looking at here?
Each and every team, it's so unique, and so I like to look at player to coach compatibility. I like to look at rotational synergy. I like to look at top three hierarchy, the top three best players. I also like to look at the point guard position in particular. Like for example, in Milwaukee, Giannis, he needs a point guard to run along with him. So he was very compatible to Drew Holiday when they won the championship, but not as compatible to their guards as of late. So I like to look at an overall dynamic. So the synergy analysis is not just a one fit all analysis. It's only an ingredient to your overall analysis. So I look at everything. So in general, even the top two duos in the 90s, for example, up until today, you'll see a strong correlation. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, very compatible, Aquarius Libra, and so forth. Even to Steph Curry and Draymond, Pisces, very compatible. So you see it all across the historical history of the NBA.
Well, our eyes tell us the Clippers are terrible. All right, so let's figure out the Clippers here, right? So things like that, it seems they're broken. We'll go with Harden and Kawhi, the two big stars. So when the Zodiac GM studies them, what makes sense for Harden and then Kawhi?
As far as for them two playing together or going on to separate teams?
Where they could go. Like, let's send them to other teams. Unless you think they have synergy together. I don't want to step on you. You're the Zodiac GM.
The Kawhi Leonard, he would fit so well with a team like the Miami Heat and the Sacramento Kings, either or. I mean, his connection with Coach Bolstra in Miami will be elite, and that alone will bring Miami Heat in general to elite status in the East. Kings is one of those teams, and I've been paying attention from quite some time. It's as if they're almost there, but they're one or two moves away. But they just never seem to get that right trade or right acquisition. But if they get a player like Kawhi Leonard into that squad, Sacramento Kings will be a new team to look out for. And James Harden, speaking of James Harden, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, yes. Speaking of James Harden, his energy would connect well with a team like the Denver Nuggets or even Memphis Grizzlies. So either or of those teams would be a great fit for James Harden.
All right, Zodiac GM, what about Zion Williamson? It is clearly not working with the New Orleans Pelicans. What kind of bad energy is going on in New Orleans, and where would Zion be a good fit?
Well, the New Orleans Pelicans, it's so interesting because it sort of replicates of what Ja Morant is facing with Memphis. Again, Zion Wilson is sort of that outlier energy within the team. So if you look at the roster, it's Zion himself, and there's at least 5 core players that are outside of his energy type that's compatible, right? So in a sense, before the season started, I made a tweet and I said, or advised, or maybe suggestion, this might be the best time to trade Zion now, because his value is still fairly high, and you can get a really good return. I'd always thought him and Lauri Markkanen would be a great fit for swap pieces.
All right, so then what about teams out there that you look at already and you say, yeah, this team's never going to make it. They are not built the right way. Is there a team that you're out on based on their astrology?
Yes, Wizards. Wizards have each and every year. They're so imbalanced within whether the coach to player ratio. So Wizards have been one team. The Hornets. is also another team. A couple of years ago, I felt like they were so close to breaking out of it. A big part of their decision making was to hire Charles Lee, the head coach. And the reason why I didn't think that was a good acquisition is because you have the up and coming star of LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and they're, LaMelo Ball being a Leo, Brandon Miller being a Sagittarius, but then it's an offsetting mix with the head coach. So there goes that ratio imbalance again. So in LaMelo Ball's career, he has emerged to have a coach that's very compatible to him. I think once he gets that coach, you'll see a new level of LaMelo Ball come out into the NBA.
What about the Lakers? Because they clearly need some help defensively. So when you're looking out at some guys that could potentially be on the trade market, whose Zodiac would fit this energy with Austin Reeves and Luka and LeBron?
Right. There's one player that I think highly of. He's out in the West. And that player is Jeremy Grant from the Portland Trail Blazers. So I think if he fits right into this Lakers roster, it will be really, really good with Doncic. So that synergy. So Grant, by the way, is a Pisces, and so is Luka Doncic. Now that Pisces connection is a very strong connection. So I think Jeremy Grant and also a player like Dylan Brooks would fit very, very well with the Los Angeles Lakers. Dylan Brooks being a cusp of a Capricorn Aquarius.
All right, so we've buried the lead here. It's time to get honest and get real about this show. Like, we can't have you on and not ask about this show. Yahoo put us together. Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline and I have been friends for years. Now we get to work together. My birthday is June 3rd. Hers is July 17th. I don't know. Does this get us an A-plus grade? Are we a dynamic duo that's made for the ages? What do we got?
Is a dynamic duo. The reason why, because you have a fair balance of a cardinal energy, a water sign such as Caroline. Now, the thing with Cancer energies, they're more like the emotional leaders, right? They're very empathic, loyal, intuitive. So when I look at that particular sign in team sense, I feel like that's a very, very important energy to have. For example, Desmond Bain, double cardinal, who's a Cancer. So is Patrick Beverly. You just get a sense of that passion and the emotional leadership that they bring to the team, right? So I think that's a very, very strong value for that energy type. Now, Jason, you being a Gemini, you're very witty, curious, and you absorb information so well like no other. You're very versatile, and there's a lot of really, really good Geminis that's into media in general because the communication is almost elite. So I think that combination works very, very well, and it's a very strong dynamic duo.
Good job, Yahoo. God. Look at them.
You know,
they probably consulted
I've never heard a more perfect
together.
You know what? We all need your expertise and your insight. What you built is really incredible. We really appreciate this. It's been a lot of fun. Follow them on social media at the Zodiac GM. This is really incredible. Congratulations on building something so unique and so intuitive for you. It's really fun to hear your insight on it. And you have to come back and let us know. As we see trade deadline go down, you have to come back and let us know what works and what doesn't work to the Zodiac GM. We appreciate your time, my friend.
I would love to. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks so much.
That's great stuff from him. He said so many nice things, particularly about me. That's really the takeaway here. All right, coming up, speaking of weenies, okay, that's me. Weenie of the week. We'll do it next. Notre Dame bookstore canceled a Friday signing of Ivan Meisel's book. This was after he is a member of the College Football Playoff Committee, and this is after, obviously, Notre Dame was left out of the College Football Playoff. Now, it should be noted that the bookstore then turned around and rescheduled the event. It should also be noted that Meisel doesn't even have a vote during that portion of the College Football Playoff Committee rankings because he has to be he abstains from that vote because of Notre Dame. All of these different nuances, but realistically, Caroline, yet again, we're hearing more and more crying from Notre Dame, which leads us to the new single greatest segment in the history of Yahoo Sports Daily, Weenie of the Week. Oh, that is Notre Dame. Are you the first ever Weenie of the Week on Yahoo Sports Daily? Caroline Fenton, are you ready to say it's Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is the Weenie of the Week. And banning Ivan Leahy from the book signing was just the next big thing. Excuse me, Ivan Meisel. Canceling that book signing is just the next chapter. If it wasn't Pete Buvakwa getting up there and saying, we are sad and we are so upset that the ACC didn't champion us for a place in the college football playoff. Well, yeah, duh, because Notre Dame football is not in the ACC. And then Notre Dame was like, we're not going to play a bowl game because we don't want to, because we got left out of the bowl game that we wanted to play in. Bunch of weenies. And then now you're canceling this book signing because he sits on the college football playoff, and it's just, the wound is too fresh. We couldn't possibly have a traitor at our bookstore who didn't put us in the CFP. Like, please, cry me a freaking river. You know what I want to hear? I want to hear Clark Lee at Vanderbilt saying, hey, we got left out because we have no one to blame but ourselves. We should have won more football games. We should have been better. We should have proven ourselves more. We like playing football here, so we're going to be playing in a bowl game. That's what I want to hear. That is a football coach right there. I love Clark Lee. I have nothing but respect for Clark Lee, and he only continues to prove why he's not a big fat weenie and why Notre Dame is. It's been nothing but whining and boo-hooing and crying instead of looking in the mirror and saying, well, we should have beaten Miami or Texas A&M. We should have done more ourselves. Just a bunch of weenies.
If you are going to run your mouth, you have to be prepared for the consequence of it, Notre Dame. And, look, if you're going to come out here and poke everybody, and that's what I think they've been doing ever since. We all know that they declined the bowl bid, which I said on this show I had no problem with. But then they come out and they do a bowling event where they say, oh, we're going bowling. Like, they are out here trolling everybody actively. And guess what? At this point, the world is ready to clap back. And this is where it gets interesting because Dan Wolken tweeted this out in reaction to other athletic directors in the league. And this is there's an actively happening within leagues. Athletic directors are considering not scheduling Notre Dame after learning of Notre Dame's memorandum of understanding that grants the Irish preferential playoff access starting next year. Athletic directors in other leagues are threatening to freeze Notre Dame out of future schedules. So what's all this mean? Well, Notre Dame it's now been revealed, has it in writing that after this year and future years, as long as they finish in the top 12, they can't be left out of the playoffs, no matter what. That's in writing. So they're assured of making the playoffs if it's ranked in the top 12. No other team in college football has that assurance. No other team anywhere. So when Wolken says everybody was shocked by this to a point that they're going to stop scheduling Notre Dame, this is the plot of the movie Ants. If anyone ever remembers the animated movie Ants, the whole point and purpose was you got all these little ants by themselves that can't do anything. When they come together, they can do anything they put their minds to, right? That's what's happening in college football right now. We've spent years saying what's going to make Notre Dame join a conference. And many Notre Dame people, including close friends to me, have said nothing. We don't have to do that, right? Well, guess what? You do have to do that if the entire college football world looks around and says, join a conference, or we won't play you. Nobody has to play Notre Dame. Nobody has to give in to Notre Dame. Nobody has to schedule Notre Dame. And if the entire college football playoff community simply decided that they wanted to take down the holier-than-thou approach of Notre Dame by getting themselves locked into the playoffs no matter what, if the entire college football community wanted to stand up to Notre Dame and say, that's enough, they can. They could. They should, Caroline. I want this to happen. If I want one or two things. Either never bother me again, even a single time, about the fact that they're not in a conference, or force them to join one. Because what really was eye-opening about all of this is that they can be forced to join one. Not by me, not by you, not by the College Football Playoff Committee, by every school in the country simply not returning their phone call.
Yeah, it does sound like, with Notre Dame saying, well, we have to be in the college football playoff if we're ranked in the top 12. It's so like my super sweet 16 energy. Like the 16-year-old girl who's the daughter of rich parents stomps her foot and says, I wanted a pink Range Rover, not a purple one. It sounds so spoiled. Rules for thee, but not for me. The Notre Dame wants all of these exceptions. And I think what I'm learning more and more in this new era of college football is conference equals protection in so many different ways. If you're a member of the SEC, you have a certain financial protection of being part of the Southeastern Conference. You are guaranteed the TV revenue share that's going to come from a very lucrative television contract with ESPN. Same thing with the Big Ten. You are protected from the Big Ten TV rights. If you're a member of the ACC, you don't feel that same level of protection. If you're a member of the SEC or the Big Ten, you're going to have a certain level of protection for the level that your schedule is going to be, that you feel like, okay, our conference is deep enough and competitive enough that we are going to have a certain level of quote unquote protection when it comes to college football playoff time. We're going to get a certain benefit of the doubt that maybe an ACC school doesn't get. That's exactly what we've seen from this year's college football playoff. Notre Dame doesn't have that same kind of protection. Although I don't see this coming to fruition. I really don't, because what would have to happen is all members of the Big Ten and the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 would have to come together and say, okay, we agree. We are bounding together to say we are not going to schedule Notre Dame. I just don't see that happening. You're going to tell USC to not schedule Notre Dame? Like, you're going to tell Louisville, who probably got a fat check from playing Notre Dame on Peacock, that they can't get that money? Like, you mean to tell me that every single Power 4 school across America is going to say, we're not going to schedule Notre Dame, even though you know there's going to be eyes on it, even though you know it's going to be lucrative, even though you know it's going to be a massive boost for your resume? We talked about Texas A&M being a different team after they beat Notre Dame. It was like, okay, Texas A&M, you squarely have our attention. So I don't think that that's ultimately going to come to fruition. I don't think that you can get all of these schools to agree on anything, much less scheduling Notre Dame and the eyeballs and the money that would come from it.
I agree, but I think that's all short-sighted. Like you're talking, if we're being real, I see the stat here: 23% of the ACC games sell out. When Notre Dame visits, it's 90% of the time. I get all that. You would have to be willing to take a short-term loss for the next 2 years. It would take 2 years. If literally every college football team in the country, this is where everybody says they won't. We've watched college football. We've watched sport programs, franchises in every sport collude against people all the time to get their way in collective bargaining. And we keep sitting here constantly saying, hey, the future of college football is going to be collectively bargained. Well, this is where you got to get a little ahead of it, right? And to your point, will they take the short-term hit? Probably not. But if you're not going to take the short-term hit, then never complain about it again. Like, you can actually change this. If your complaint is Notre Dame shouldn't be a lock to get into the playoffs if they finish in the top 12, you have nobody to blame for but yourself if you allow Notre Dame to play other teams. So at some point, I hear you, but really, what would it take? 1 year, 2 years, max, before Notre Dame literally didn't have a major Power 4 opponent before they would have to turn around and then decide which conference they're going to join, which ultimately becomes good for everybody. So it would take literally every school banding together. And I hear you that the money would be a tough pill to swallow. I think it would be temporary enough that it's worth the long-term gain, because once you set the precedent of Notre Dame being guaranteed in the college football playoff, getting that taken away is going to be really difficult to do. It's like taxes. They raise them. They rarely give them back to you after they've taken your money. So to me, you got to just stand together as a group of college football institutions and say, we don't like this. We don't think that they should have this opportunity. We don't think they should be guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff. So if they're guaranteed a college football, a guaranteed spot as long as they finish in the top 12, if that contract remains, none of us will play them. That is actually impacting and affecting what your future looks like in the entire sport. So I hear you. They probably won't do it. But if you're not willing to do it, then don't ask me to give a damn about it when it impacts your favorite school.
I think about it too, though, and I'm with you. I think this is ridiculous to guarantee Notre Dame something that you're not going to guarantee any other team in America is shameful, and it just shows how broken the system truly is. But let's say Notre Dame doesn't have a single Power Four opponent on their schedule. They'll probably go 12-0, and they will probably be a top 12 team regardless. Like the reason why Notre Dame isn't in the college football playoff is because they lost to a team that had the same record. Like ultimately, that's what it came down to. They lost to A&M. They lost to Miami. Miami was 10-2 as well, so Miami gets the edge over Notre Dame. It's not because they didn't have. It is partly because they didn't have a strong rest of their schedule, but ultimately it came down to Notre Dame or Miami head to head. Miami gets in. But if Notre Dame plays, South Harmon Institute of Technology 12 weeks of the year, they're probably going to beat South Harmon Institute of Technology 12 weeks out of the year, which wouldn't then probably put them in the playoffs.
If their best win this year, if their best game this year had been against Nashville Auto Diesel College, I don't think they're making the top 12. And that's where, again, I'm an empowerment agent at this point. So if I'm Alabama, I'm looking, if I'm the SEC, every single SEC Big Ten, we all know that they control college football. I'm looking at every single SEC and Big Ten school, and I'm going to every one of those schools, and I'm saying, hey, don't schedule Notre Dame. We're no longer going to play Notre Dame. I'll include all the Power Fours in this, right? I'll say every Power Four says we won't schedule Notre Dame. And then the next thing they say is, if you choose to schedule Notre Dame to the group of five, if you choose to schedule Notre Dame, we won't allow you to join our conference or play against our conference for the next 10 years. Like, again, these are things that I know none of us think this will happen. But the Power Four could control Notre Dame. There is no one school that is more powerful than all of the rest of them. So I totally agree that they could still bank 12 wins against the Mountain West. But if the Mountain West schools find out that they're not going to get to schedule a single other Power Four school through the entire time, and they won't be able to join that conference no matter what happens, you think UNLV would hesitate to play Notre Dame then? I do.
This is just also ridiculous. Like, we are talking about 4 conferences colluding against Notre Dame and colluding against any other team in America that even thinks about playing Notre Dame. Like, how in the world did we get here? The onus is not on the SEC and the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Mountain West and the American and insert whatever conference you want here. This is on the College Football Playoff Committee. This is embarrassing that we're even talking about concessions being made for Notre Dame. Like, this is ridiculous that it would get to this point. San Diego State, you want to schedule Notre Dame? That means you're not getting in the Big 12 for the next decade. Seriously? That is so immature and ridiculous. This is like, you can't sit with us at lunch because you played with so-and-so on the playground. That's literally what this sounds. We sound like a bunch of children. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. Do better.
You are 1,000% right. We'll keep you updated on anything we hear on it. Coming up next, though, we got to figure out some of the best games of the weekend the way only this show can. Time for Can't Wait. Can't wait. Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb has now cleared concussion protocol and is expected to play Sunday night versus Minnesota. That per Tom Pelissero. That is absolutely huge right now, Caroline Fenton, for the Dallas Cowboys. This is an offense you and I have talked a lot about. I think George Pickens is absolutely dynamic. We agree that he is going to be he is a superstar wide receiver. If anyone watches FFL Fantasy Football Live on Sundays, I've been able to win a lot of competitions this year on that show by picking George Pickens every week. I believe in George Pickens, but I feel a hell of a lot better about all of that when CeeDee Lamb is also on the field. That being said, it always gets stuck in my mind when I see these things. I just keep thinking about T. Higgins coming back. So I just want to make sure that CD is ready to come back, but this is absolutely a necessity for the Cowboys, whose backs are against the wall and we know need to go on a run to end the season.
And that's the thing. You might look at their upcoming schedule and say, well, the Cowboys don't necessarily need CeeDee Lamb to beat the Vikings or need CeeDee Lamb to beat the Commanders or the Giants. But the Cowboys have to take care of business and still rely on some craziness elsewhere in order to find themselves in the postseason. So you feel much better about their chances of beating the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants upcoming when CeeDee Lamb is on the field. Now, George Pickens is their leading receiver on the season. But a big reason because of that, in my opinion, is because CeeDee Lamb takes up a lot of the attention from opposing defenses. So that opens up George Pickens, and then vice versa. When CeeDee Lamb is on the field, you either pay attention to George Pickens or you pay attention to CeeDee Lamb, and the other one can slice and dice you on any given down. This is massive for Dak Prescott. This is huge for a Cowboys team that absolutely positively has to win out just to keep their postseason hopes alive. So good to see that CeeDee Lamb can make his way back, because it was a very scary scene when we saw him go down last time.
And a huge game for the Cowboys and the Vikings. And whatever we think of J.J. McCarthy, every time he steps on the field is sort of a bit of an indictment. All right, let's get to some of the biggest games that we've got coming through the course of the weekend. It is time for Can't Wait. This is where we just invoke the spirit of Bart Scott to join us. We'll go through some games and we'll figure out whether they're great or they're not. If they're great, then we'll tell you it's Can't Wait, and you'll hear this. Can't wait. But that would be a Bart.
So good.
All right, so what's the opposite of a Bart? Well, if it's a terrible game, it's not a Bart. It's a fart. You'll hear this. It just never gets normal. So let's take a look at some of the games. We'll start with the Chargers. Chargers and the Chiefs. Is this a Bart or a fart to you?
Ooh, this is such a Bart. You got a clash in... Yes, I absolutely cannot wait. Thank you, Bart. This is a clash in the AFC West. I mean, the Chiefs have to get... I've said so many times I have to hold myself accountable for writing the Chiefs off, for saying that they're done, for saying that they're dead. But I just can't. I can't get myself to do it, Fitz. I cannot get myself to wholeheartedly believe that before Christmas, the Chiefs are eliminated from postseason contention. So this is a massive opportunity for the Chiefs at home, at Arrowhead, to take down a divisional opponent that is incredibly vulnerable right now. I mean, Justin Herbert got hit after hit after hit, was sacked 7 times, just 1 week removed from hand surgery. So this is an awesome opportunity for the Chiefs to be able to at least get back into the win column, at least get themselves back to 500, because there is still a path for the Chiefs to make the postseason. And if the Chiefs are in the postseason, anything can happen.
Sure, but this is also an opportunity to fully Zombieland the Kansas City Chiefs. If anybody remembers the movie Zombieland, rule number 2 is you got to shoot a down zombie a second time. That's the only thing you can do. You got to get it twice. The Chiefs are almost dead. This game is a Bart. Can't wait. Because I can't wait to see what happens when somebody finally has the Chiefs on the ropes and can leave them for dead. This Kansas City Chiefs team has been broken this year, and we have spent so much time apologizing for it, excusing it, trying to figure it out, remaining scared of it. All of these things have happened at once, and just as Kelsey even says, I've always had the answers in the years past. This year, I just can't find them. None of us can find them, and I just want to finally have the moment where we can all just stand up and say, huzzah, congratulations, we can admit it. The Chiefs are no longer part of this conversation. They're dead. They've been tapped once, but they're still there, and you know if you watch Zombieland, you always have to double tap. Like, you just never know, so you got to shoot them again. So it's a Bart to see if the Chargers can do it. What about Ravens versus Bengals? Is that a Bart or a fart?
That's a fart. as I try to prepare myself for the incoming flatulence. Both these teams are bad. Like, the Ravens are bad. The Bengals are bad. I feel so horrible for Joe Burrow, who looks like he's just having the worst time of his life. But these are two bad teams facing off. And yes, the division is still wide open. Yes, anything can happen. Yes, the Bengals are still statistically and mathematically alive, and the Ravens are still statistically and mathematically alive to win the division and make the postseason. But these are two bad football teams, and it's going to be a gross game, Fitz. So this is a fart for me.
This is a Bart. You're right about your analysis, but I just didn't want to hear the sound again. It's also a Bart because, look, there's so much on the line for both teams. For the Ravens, they're clinging for dear life, and I'm out. I just said it with the Chiefs. Like, I'm waiting for us to admit, I think this could end up being that breaking point. We just saw the Bengals give absolutely everything the Bills could handle and more in a game that I still can't figure out quite how they lost. I mean, that was heartbreaking to watch it. Plus, all eyes are going to be on that man, Joe Burrow. We've made so much of his press conference this week where it was clear he wasn't having fun, and I just want to watch the body language during the game. Does it look like football is fun for him? Does it look like this is something that he's enjoying? What's his emotion like on touchdowns? Like what is resonating with Joe Burrow right now? So this is a game obviously with very little consequence for the Bengals at this point. Like, what's the difference between 5-9 or 4-10? But there is huge consequence for all of us that are trying to figure out what the future of Joe Burrow looks like. And man, with the Ravens having their backs up against the wall yet again, I'm waiting to see that moment. I'm waiting to see the rise from the dead, the Undertaker moment. The Ravens sit up and remind all of us that they're the Ravens. Because right now, I just think the Ravens are also on the verge of being left for dead. Which team comes out and plays like they actually want to remain in this conversation? To me, weirdly, is interesting. We'll disagree on this one. How about Colts, Seahawks? I will tell you this straight out. I'll just take this first. This is a fart. And, like, I can say that. Thank you. As the old man in the room. Like, as the old man in the room here, I am, as somebody older than Phillip Rivers, I am so concerned about the possibility that Phillip Rivers is going to step on a football field for the first time in 5 years against this Seahawks defense. Oh, my God. Like, the first time he takes a hit, I'm just going to step back and say, is he okay? Like, I want him in shotgun, like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, throwing as soon as the ball touches his hands, or just hand it off to Jonathan Taylor. Like, if he throws the ball more than 11 times, I'm going to be scared for his life. This is one of those things where, I say this with so much respect, Phillip Rivers, but like, even that you're not necessarily in playing shape right now. I don't know why I'm couching it. We got Fat Phil back there trying to run away from the Seahawks. This is going to be a disaster.
See, that's exactly why this isn't just an any old Bart. This is an old Bart.
Can't wait. What's that? This Bart's like,
there you go. That's old Bart.
Yeah, okay.
Can't wait. And the old man voice.
Oh,
that's
that
exactly
image is amazing.
what this game is. Old Bart Simpson is what this game is. You mean to tell me you are not going to be blocking out your calendar when this game is being played so you can watch Phillip Rivers at 44 years old, 5 years removed from his last NFL game, trotting out there for the Indianapolis Colts against that Seattle Seahawks defense? Now, I do fear it's going to be ugly. I do fear it's going to be really difficult to watch. I do fear at some point I'm going to be like, oh no, just put Riley Leonard in. This isn't nice. This is not nice to put him out there. He's a literal grandfather, but I'm here for it. This might be a monumental day in the history of the NFL. We might be telling our kids one day, I remember where I was when Phillip Rivers made his return at 44 years old. So I'm here for it. It's an old Bart.
Now, here's the one thing that I can hope. I'm just going to watch this game on Red Zone because I have a sneaking suspicion if I'm watching it on Red Zone, I'll never see Phillip Rivers play any offense this weekend. There we go. Ouch. Packers, Broncos.
He's old, Fitz. Be nice.
No, sorry. Respect your elders. Wait, I'm older than he is, so he can't even say anything about me calling him fat. All right.
Yeah,
Packers,
but NFL
Broncos
years are different.
Okay, that 100%. That makes him even. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, you're right.
He's 400,000 years old.
Is it? It's like dog years times a million at this point.
Yeah.
Packers, Broncos, Bart or fart?
Big old Bart. This
Can't
game
wait.
is such a Bart. I mean, we're talking about the Green Bay Packers. I did not realize this until our producers told us about this in the post-game, or our post-show, I was going to say post-game press conference, post-show meeting. It's essentially a post-game press
It'd be
conference.
awesome if we got to do those.
Jordan Love is 4th in MVP odds right now. I did not realize that, but we're talking about a Matt LaFleur coached offense against this Denver Broncos defense. I've heard a lot of people saying that this could be a Super Bowl preview. I'm not going to go that far, but I'm also not going to just totally and completely dismiss that thought. So this is a big old Bart.
Yeah, they said he's actually 3rd in the MVP. So 3rd in MVP odds, even better than we thought. And look, this is such a great. This is a part. This is the partiest of all the parts. This is like if we were doing the Christmas story. I got the Christmas past, Christmas present, Christmas future, all part on this one because this is such a prove it game to me because. You're talking about a couple of things here. That man right there, Bo Nix. I want to see what Bo Nix looks like against this defense. I want to see what we can learn from Bo. I don't think you learn a lot when Bo takes on bad teams. So let's see what he looks like. I've mentioned several times he struggles in certain coverages, but he's great inside 4 minutes. What are we going to see from Bo that gives us even more sort of belief in his ability? And also this Packers team, like Josh Jacobs had another MRI on his knee, said that there's no structural damage. He's going to try and give it a go. He has just been a warrior back there for this team. So you've got Jordan Love, the return of Watson. Like this, every element of this coming together makes it feel like Green Bay is getting hot at the right time. And as much as we are making so much of this conversation about the Rams and the Seahawks, the Packers would like a word. So I think this is huge proof it. We're going to do something we have never done on Can't Wait. Are you ready for this? We're bringing Bart Scott to our NBA thoughts. We have the NBA Cup semifinals this weekend, so we're going to give those a little bit of Bart or fart. Knicks versus Magic. Is this a Bart or a fart to you?
Oh, this is a super Bart. The East, thank you. The East is turning out to be much more intriguing than I thought it would. I mean, this Orlando Magic defense is legit. This is going to be tough on the New York Knicks. I am so here for this one. This one is an absolute positive Bart.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This one is a Bart. I just want everybody in Vegas. This game is in Vegas. These semifinal games are in Vegas. I want everybody to bring little tiny inflatable basketballs and then throw them at Desmond Bane, just in honor of Bane throwing the basketball, at the Knicks last week. I just want everybody to throw little inflatable, gentle inflatable basketballs. I want to start this thing off fired up. It's
little
toss. It's just a little gesture. The last time we saw these two teams on the court, it cost Bane $35,000 in fines for throwing a basketball. So I want to see what this fired up energy looks like. And a reminder that because it's the NBA Cup, cash is on the line. So when we sit here and say, oh, who cares? Well, these players are going to care because cash is on the line. So this is absolutely, and a bit of a prove it moment here. I like the Knicks in this matchup, but you're right. The suffocating defense of the Magic will be an interesting test for the Knicks, who I think have been playing particularly hot of late. What about the other one? I'll give you a surprising take. Oklahoma City, San Antonio. I'm calling this game a fart. You know why I'm calling this game a fart? Well, I was hoping I was going to get sound effect. The NBA guys don't get the sound effect. I'm not wrong. I am right about this game. Thank you. I'm right about this game being a fart simply because it's going to be a blowout. Like San Antonio, maybe if Wemby miraculously plays, I'll change my mind. No, I'm not changing my mind. OKC wins by 30. OKC wins by 30. Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. You're going to make me stay up that late to watch OKC win by 30. Like, I love watching the Thunder right now. This game's going to be a fart. I'm going to pop 2 edibles and just sit back and watch this thing.
Well, you're wrong, and I love that for you, first of all. Pop 2 edibles for a good game or a bad game. Go crazy. The world is your oyster.
For me, yes. Very much so.
No, this game is a Bart. This game is a Bartier Bart than Magic Knicks. Because if we get Chet Wemby, sign me up for that. Like, that is the matchup that we all deserve to see. But even if Wemby doesn't play, the Spurs have proven they can slice and dice you with their guards in any way that they want. If it's not De'Aaron Fox, it's Stephon Castle. We've seen so much from Dylan Harper playing not like a rookie, but playing kind of like a vet. We saw Stephon Castle drop 30 on the Lakers. Now, I understand the Lakers defense is a far, far cry from what we're going to see from OKC, but that's what I'm excited to see. Wemby or not, what does this Spurs offense look like against that OKC defense? And I'm with you. Look, I think OKC is going to win. I am on record saying I think that they're not just going to have a better record than the best NBA record of all time. I think they're going to obliterate it. Like, they're on track for 3 or 4 losses this season. That is absolutely positively absolutely insane. I think OKC is that good. I think that OKC is that unbeatable. But I'm excited to see what we might learn from this Spurs team with Wemby or without Wemby. With Wemby, I think that they are absolutely a contender in the West. What about without Wemby? What do they look like? They were able to absolutely obliterate the Lakers. What about against OKC? What kind of a test is that?
Yeah. And the pace of play for San Antonio could have finally challenged a little of the depth of OKC. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws, but you're 1,000% right about one thing. Lakers defense means nothing. Santa checked his list twice. The Lakers defense was not on the nice list this year. All right, we'll continue to break down some of the action you got this weekend, including what you might think is a fart of a game, but it isn't. The Raiders, the Eagles, could be a little more interesting than you think. We'll tell you about it next. Raiders quarterback Geno Smith, dealing with a shoulder injury, is considered unlikely to start on Sunday. Sources say he won't practice. That will put Kenny Pickett in line to start against the Eagles, his former team. So now we have the Raiders, who are obviously terrible, taking on Philadelphia in Philly. Philly has a lot to prove, trying to figure out if there's some edge for Kenny Pickett. That's the question everybody asks. Carolina, I mean, I'm a Raiders fan. Everybody knows my Raiders fandom. I don't think that there's any edge for this team. Does Kenny Pickett starting make it more interesting in some way?
Fitz, this is when you know you're down so horrendous. When you start asking yourself, does Kenny Pickett give us the edge? Is Kenny Pickett the answer that we've been looking for? Does Kenny Pickett all of a sudden make our team more interesting? That's when you know you are just absolutely down so bad. The answer is no. Kenny Pickett doesn't make this team more interesting. Kenny Pickett doesn't give you an edge. Kenny Pickett's a backup. That's where he is at this point in his career. Is he a reliable backup? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. But Kenny Pickett's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Kenny Pickett isn't going to be the defibrillator that this Raiders team needs at this point in the season against this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Like we are really like the bar is on the floor here. Like we are playing limbo with the expectations for this Raiders team. I'm sorry, Fitz. I know it's your team. I know you love them dearly, but I know you well enough to know that you have a very good grasp on what the reality for this team is, and it's not great.
No, the reality here is this game's all about Philadelphia and getting the chance to tune up and show everybody exactly what you can be. And I mean that. Like this, there is some moment here where we're looking at an Eagles team that in the last 6 games that they were a double-digit favorite have been 0-6 covering that spread. So they don't win in blowouts when they should win in blowouts, and they need to. This is an Eagles team that, we spent much of the early season saying, I spent much of the early season saying, how are we not talking more about the defending Super Bowl champions? And now we're not talking about them with that crown at all because they don't look like it. They don't scare anybody. Their weapons scare people. If you were playing as the Eagles on Madden, everybody's scared of them. But the actual team on the field that we're seeing just hasn't been good enough. And now they take on a Raiders defense that they should be able to slice and dice. This is, to me, the sort of game where you get the chance to get right, And so the funny thing is, one metric I've seen many people talk about is Jalen Hurts struggling against zone coverage. The Raiders run a lot of zone. I will remind the world, I said the exact same thing a week ago about Bo Nix with the Denver Broncos. He carved that defense up. Jalen Hurts, I don't care what the coverage is. I don't care who the Raiders put on the field. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles need to go out and get right. They need to go out and hammer this football team. A.J. Brown needs to catch the balls when they hit him in the hands. Jalen Hurts needs to not turn the ball over 724 times. Saquon Barkley needs to run the ball effectively. This defense should dominate the Raiders' offense. This isn't a win to me. This is the sort of win that you get 35-3. This should be an absolute throttling. And if it's not a throttling in Philadelphia by the Eagles, I'll be embarrassed for Philly.
Philly has suffered a string of unacceptable losses. I think it was unacceptable to get beaten by the Cowboys the way that they did. I think it was unacceptable to get beaten by the Bears, obliterated by the Bears. And that's no disrespect to Dallas. That's no disrespect to Chicago. But Philly was embarrassed by Chicago. This team, the reigning Super Bowl champions that has back-to-back kind of aspirations, has no excuse getting beaten that way. And then getting beaten by the Chargers, I know it was on the road, but we're talking about Justin Herbert, who was 1 week removed from hand surgery. You sacked him 7 times, and Jalen Hurts turned the ball over 5 times. Jalen Hurts threw a pick and fumbled the ball on the same play. First time that's ever happened in the history of the NFL. Like, unacceptable losses. But there is no loss more unacceptable than losing to this version of the Las Vegas Raiders team. We're talking about a Philly defense that is stifling and aggressive and gets after the quarterback, going up against an offensive line that might not even, make the cut for a JV high school team. Harsh, but I mean that. I mean, there is zero excuse for this Eagles team to not win this game. There's zero excuse for the Eagles to not just beat up on the Raiders. This is a get-right opportunity. This is a great opportunity for the Eagles to remind us and to remind themselves of who they are. There's no excuse for the Eagles to be in this position, to feel as identityless as they are offensively at this point in the season. But what's the best thing to do when you feel identityless, when you have a positivity rabbit in the locker room, when everything just feels broken in Philly? Beating up on the Raiders.
I mean, the positivity rabbit. Let's go there for a second. And just put
So
yourself
dumb.
in life in general. If Caroline calls me and says, "How you doing?" and I say, "Oh man, I'm great. You know what? I'm turning things around in life. I just put a positivity rabbit on my desk." The first thing she's going to do is ask me if I'm okay, right? Like,
I would
those
call
are
the
the
police.
things you do when things are right. Let's say things are out of control when you get to the positivity rabbit in the locker room. And how out of control is it? There was clips all over social media yesterday of sports talk radio stations in Philadelphia calling for the benching of Jalen Hurts so that Tanner McKee can start instead. Really? Like, that's where we are. Less than a year removed from the Super Bowl, this thing has gotten that bad. And to me, when you put all of this together, I just keep looking at Nick Sirianni and saying, how are you going to fix it? Something you mentioned earlier about Tampa Bay and their sort of meltdown against the Falcons is leadership, culture, right? It wasn't that long ago that people thought Sirianni was going to get fired, right? And then everything got normal. They got to the Super Bowl. Everybody's happy. It's glorious. Now we're right back to where we were 2 years ago. This team feels broken. And at some point, the real answer is to stop trying to listen to the outside noise. It's to stop trying to be anything you're not. As I've said, they lead the NFL in the last 3 weeks in turnovers when they decided they were suddenly going to be a pass-happy team. just go out there and do what wins you football games. I am stunned that we are having an NFC conversation about the powers in the conference, and it doesn't include Philadelphia at all. Like right now, if you had to rank the Eagles, I think we all agree, you would put them below the Rams and the Seahawks, but I'd also put them below the Packers. I'd put them below the Lions today on a neutral field. They're obviously below the Bears. They just got their asses kicked by the Bears. So, like, you start going up and down the list, it's pretty easy to make – if we were power ranking just the NFC today, neutral field, suddenly Philadelphia looks like they might be the 6th, 7th, or 8th best team in their own conference. Like, that is an abject disaster in Philly.
It is a disaster. Everything just feels so off. The positivity rabbit. I mean, hearing Saquon Barkley talk about it, how embarrassing it was, how he didn't want it, how he doesn't know why it's there. Talking about Saquon, a face of your franchise, a leader in your team, talking about how embarrassed he is. Talk about having a bad pulse on your locker room. Talk about not understanding what your team needs in the moment. The last thing an NFL team full of grown men needs is an inflatable bunny in the locker room. It's not even Easter. Okay? Let's not even mention that. Wrong time of the year.
Yeah, at least remove the happy Easter portion of it. Put some, like, happy thoughts. Like, put a little gaff tape over that.
Christmas.
Write something else on it. Like, oh, come on.
It's
like, we got a Christmas bunny? What are we doing
holiday
here?
Season.
Easter bunny's
what
on vacation right now. Come on.
Yeah, like, don't bring him into this. He's out of office until March. Leave the poor guy alone. But I've had questions about Nick Sirianni several times, several tactical mistakes, fourth down decisions that he's made this season that I wonder, is Nick Sirianni really a great coach, or does Nick Sirianni coach a really great team? And, like, he won a Super Bowl. He's been to multiple. Like, it's hard to nitpick too much, but I think it is possible for a broken clock to be right twice a day. I do think it's possible that maybe Nick Sirianni isn't as good of a coach as the Eagles are a team. The positivity rabbit is a good example of that. What we're seeing now offensively, the fact that he is not moving on from his offensive coordinator, the fact that Nick Sirianni hasn't gotten on the headset and said, no, we're not running that play. We are not doing that. Yes, we are going to feed A.J. Brown the football, because at times I've forgotten A.J. Brown's even wearing an Eagles uniform. That is unacceptable for a guy that I think is a unanimous top 10 receiver in the league. You could talk me into a top 5 receiver in the league. There's no business for this Eagles offense to look the way that it does. When you have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, when you have Saquon Barkley, who had an MVP caliber season last year, when you have an offensive line that is largely viewed as one of the best, if not the best, in the National Football League, when you have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts, who I don't think is elite, but Jalen Hurts is better than what we've seen him do over the last several weeks. There is just zero excuse for this team to be in the position that it's in right now, and I put that squarely on the coach's shoulders. We shouldn't be talking about Tanner McKee. Please spare me with Tanner McKee, who's attempted 45 passes in his career. This is on the coaching staff.
From failures to successes, we'll talk to Ben Fawkes next. We'll get his thoughts on some of the MVP odds and what we expect over the course of this weekend. Coming up next, Yahoo Sports Daily. After week 14, your MVP odds: Matt Stafford with the shortest odds, -175. Then Drake May, Jordan Love, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott out there. Big number on them. Let's bring in senior betting analyst Ben Fawkes to discuss the MVP candidates. Ben, appreciate it. Stafford, the favorite. He's got a couple of big games coming up with the Lions and the Seahawks. May faces the Bills and the Ravens. Can May make up some ground here?
Yeah, I think he definitely can. I mean, I think this is still kind of Stafford's to lose. Ultimately, he's played really well. You guys were talking before about Philadelphia, right? And as we see with these MVP potential favorites, and with Stafford, you have a really good quarterback, also with a really good coach, right? Drake May and Mike Vrabel. You have LaFleur and Jordan Love a little further down the board, and Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. Although I guess Bills fans may waver a little bit on McDermott, depending on the postseason versus the regular season. But in general, good head coaches, strong quarterbacks. Stafford's played really well. He also plays a Lions team. This game, the Rams, a 6-point favorite. This total has steamed up from 52.5 to 55.5 with some sharp money on the over early on. So some bettors expecting a high scoring game. Lions defense also banged up. You're playing indoors, and the Lions still have the number one offense in yards per play. So you figure they're going to put up a lot of points. Stafford's going to need to match that. He's played really well this season. He kind of has the stats argument, right? 35 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He also has the narrative argument. He's never won it before. He was on all those bad Lions teams. And he also has the game against the Seahawks on Thursday night, a standalone game, and then against the Falcons on Monday Night Football, another island game. So he has the opportunity to beat some good teams in kind of prime time or on the national spotlight. If he does that, I think he'll probably still win the MVP. May's right there. He's played very well. It's also just hard to believe the Patriots are going to go into the postseason winning, 13, 14 straight games. It certainly could happen, but it feels like they're due for one or two stinkers or a loss or an off game for May, and I think he'll fall back a little bit. But two players who have played really well this season, I think it's still Stafford's to lose. He's just been at a little higher level, and odds makers have the Rams as their number one team. A big part of that, obviously, is how well Stafford's playing.
And I do think part of that as well is the human element of it all. This is an award that's voted on by people. So people might look at it and say, hey, Matthew Stafford might not have very many more cracks at winning MVP, and Drake May, based on his play this season, should have plenty more. But I am with you that if the season ended today, it would be Matthew Stafford or Drake May. But in between those two and the rest of the field, there's Jordan Love and Josh Allen with, less than 100 to 1 odds. If Matthew Stafford and Drake May kind of limp down the stretch, I don't think that's going to happen, but let's just say if in a fantasy world, how good of a shot do you think either Jordan Love or Josh Allen have at potentially winning this award?
Yeah, I think it's probably, I'd lean a little more towards Love, and that's for a couple reasons. I'd also add with Stafford, right? Before the season, we didn't know about his back, too. So we didn't know if he was even going to play, how well he was going to play, and he's obviously overcome that, too. I think for Josh Allen, you're also not only facing Jordan Love, obviously, and the other quarterbacks there, you're also kind of competing against yourself, right? You just won the MVP, and so naturally, your stats are going to be compared to last season. How did you look? Should you have won that one potentially over Lamar Jackson? And so I think in order for him to win, he'd have to be that much better than he even was last season. He has more turnovers this year, and obviously the team has struggled a bit more. We've seen that also a little bit, one way to measure, not the only way, but one way certainly. I am the betting expert, right, is against the spread, and the Bills have kind of underperformed against the spread, and Love's Packers have as well, whereas Stafford and Drake May, with the Patriots have been two of the best teams against the spread. I think Love, though, he also has a couple of those big time games coming up. And so I think he has a chance. He plays at the Bears on Saturday night. That's a standalone game. And he also has the Ravens as a standalone game the following week. So he has an opportunity. If they play well, they still have kind of an outside shot potentially at the number one seed. And obviously they need these games for the division. I think if he catches fire, as we've seen Jordan Love has in the past, and I believe Matt LaFleur is like 21-4 straight up in December. So the Packers tend to win these games. If they win those and he plays well, like we saw on Thanksgiving, which really boosted his odds as well this year, I think he has that outside chance. But like I said, I think it's still probably Stafford's to lose.
All right, let's get into some of the games. Bills, 1-point favorite at the Patriots. What would a win do for Buffalo for their division odds?
It would help. It would definitely help. I think they're in a tough spot right now. I think before the season, I believe at BetMGM there was a bettor who had a $250,000 bet on the Bills at minus 250 to win 100,000. So that one isn't looking so great. Obviously, with the Patriots now minus 525. The big thing is just the Patriots. That minus 525 equates to about an 84% chance to win the division, whereas the Bills are around 20%. It would certainly boost it. I think the bigger issue for the Bills is just that Patriots schedule. They have this game, even if they lose that, they have at Ravens, and the Ravens haven't been playing that well. And then they finish with the Jets and the Dolphins. And just given the way that they've kind of beaten teams they're supposed to beat this season, you'd have a hard time believing they're going to, in those three games, let's say, go 1-2 or potentially 0-3. So just with those games to catch up, I think it's going to be difficult for the Bills. That does mean they're not going to be a force in the playoffs, and ultimately the Bills probably still will be a higher power rated team going into the postseason if they beat the Patriots, I think, this week, but still finish behind in the division. But just given what we saw before the season, we talked about the Patriots heading in, and even with that win total, I believe, of 7.5 or 8.5, they were favored in 12 or 13 games before the season. That's what they were projected to be in. And that was just because of their schedule. And when you're projected as a small favorite or a bigger favorite and you win those games, well, guess what? You've won 10 straight games. And now you have kind of that margin for error in the division. And so the Bills just have no margin for error. There's obviously a game they have to win, and then they basically have to win out. It's possible, but I think the Patriots are going to end up winning that AFC East and taking the crown from the Bills. And then it'll be really interesting to see if they end up facing each other in the playoffs. We could have a rematch of this game in a couple weeks in Foxborough.
And I'd be here for it, but I do want to get into another AFC contender, and that's the Broncos. They're hosting the Packers this weekend. I was a little surprised, though, Ben. The Packers 2.5-point road favorites at Denver. Explain the spread to me.
Yeah, so ultimately, the Packers are a pretty highly power rated team because they have a great coach, right? A quarterback who generally has played well, and now they have also a great home field advantage, which doesn't matter in this game, and a very good defense. So I think overall, that kind of infrastructure, they trust it a little more, whereas odds makers do. Whereas the Broncos, they still have so many of those games, right? Where you think of the Giants game, they came back in the fourth quarter miraculously and won. The Jets game in London set football back at least a year or two, if not a decade, watching that. So they've had all of these games. The Commanders, they eke out a win where, again, they're winning the games, but they're not winning going away, right? For example, the Rams, they have the second largest margin of cover of any team behind the Seahawks. So not only are they winning games, I think they're 9-4 against the spread, they're also winning games against the spread and crushing teams. The Broncos are just kind of getting by and beating teams. And so I think overall the ceiling is viewed a little higher for the Packers. Now I will say this line has come down a little bit at a couple books. It is now Packers -2 at some books, so could signal it's moving a little further in that direction. But I think the Packers will be favored in this game. And ultimately, I do think the Packers win this game. They have struggled. They're only 5-6 as a favorite. And we don't think of the Packers. We generally think success and they're winning all these games. They have won 3 in a row against the spread. Before that, though, they'd lost 7 of 8. So they really haven't played well. They haven't been good for bettors. And the Broncos have played well, a little better as an underdog. I think it's interesting, and that's kind of what we talk about power ratings as well. Last season, Bo Nix and the Broncos as a favorite, 8-0 against the spread. This season, they're 2-7. But they've won 8 of those 9 games, right? So they're not covering the spread in games they're a favorite, but they're winning that. That's not going to help your power rating as much. And I think that's why the Packers are favored in this game. Both teams, though, Packers 5th in DVOA, the Broncos 8th, both very good teams. Ultimately, it sounds very simple. Can you get off the field on third down? The Broncos are the best NFL defense at stopping opposing offenses in third down percentage of conversions. And the Packers are the best offense at converting third downs. They're the only team above 50%. So It sounds simple, but I think who wins that is going to win the game. I like the Packers to win and cover this one.
It's great analysis by you. Let's get into a little NBA. I know we talk a lot of football here, but all eyes are on Giannis, potential new teams for Giannis Antetokounmpo. We talk on this show a lot about it. Everybody does. What of all the places where he could go, where would it make the most difference as far as Vegas considers title odds?
Yeah, so I talked to Jeff Sherman at Westgate yesterday about this. He's been their lead NBA guy for a long, long time, and he basically had notes on a bunch of teams. I think obviously if he's traded, there's a little difference I'd say between the best title odds or the biggest difference, and then maybe the biggest difference and the contender, right? So if he's traded, for example, to like the Raptors, I think that would be maybe 100 to 1 they are right now to like 25 to 1. It would probably come back a bit and they still wouldn't be viewed kind of as a contender. I think for the contending teams, and obviously then that would be trading him out of conference, the San Antonio Spurs was the one that kind of stood out. I think he had them around 35 to 1 currently. If they got Giannis, he would move them to plus 550, which would be the second best in the West, obviously behind the Thunder, but it would move them ahead of the Rockets, ahead of the Nuggets, ahead of the Timberwolves, all those other teams. And the big reason kind of is just it's attractive for Giannis, right? A good team. We mention it sometimes, but Texas, no state income tax, that does matter certainly for players. And for the Spurs, they have both that combination of a lot of picks that they can give up and a lot of young players too that they can offer where you'd figure they still would have a lot left over even if they gave up a Steph Castle or Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson. They have so many other, they still have Dylan Harper, right? They're not going to give up all of those guys, and they still have a lot of picks in that treasure trove of theirs. So that's kind of the biggest team where I think you'd have a realistic chance as well. And also just be really fun to see where you have Giannis and Wemby playing, on the court at the same time. Like good luck scoring in the paint. So I think that would be really fun to see. I wouldn't love it as a Timberwolves fan, taking off my professional hat. We don't need to make any other teams in the West that much better. But I think as an NBA fan, I think that would be really, really fun to see.
Oh, I would love to see it. Giannis and Wemby together. Oh my goodness. But you brought up contenders. Let's talk some contenders. And OKC seems like the biggest contender of them all this season. Right now, they're plus 125 to win the NBA Finals and currently plus 375 to win 74 games or more. So when you look at OKC, how do they compare, in terms of the odds compared to some of the other greatest and most dominant teams of all time? The 2015, 2016 Golden State Warriors, the 69 Knicks, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so I don't have going all the way back to the 69 Knicks, but for some more,
Come on now,
some more of
man.
the recent teams. Yeah, sorry, I'm not an encyclopedia here. I'm close.
You're pretty darn
I
close to
think
it.
Thank you. I think ultimately you're kind of comparing to two teams, right? I would say Jordan's Bulls and whichever year there you want to compare, and then those Steph Curry Warriors. And so the Warriors, they did open the season as odds-on favorites in a bunch of those years, right? So 2016, 17, 17, 18, and 18, 19. They were minus 128, minus 187, minus 168. The Thunder still aren't there yet. Uh, Jeff actually had moved them to even, and he does think they'll probably be an odds-on favorite, potentially even as soon as next week if they win the NBA Cup. So I'd say if you want to bet on the Thunder to win the title, you probably want to do it now or very soon, because I don't think those odds are going to go the other way. Ultimately, in terms of their power rating as well, he had said right now he does have them as basically the best team kind of he's ever power rated, right? And so that is above the Golden State team with KD. It's always tough to compare eras, but I think as he pointed out, which is very true, that team was so star heavy, and so they had, you could make an argument, the best 3 or 4 players on the court basically any single night. But the Thunder are so deep, and they have SGA, and obviously, they have Chet. They still have some of the star power, maybe not at that same tier as obviously Steph and KD, but they're so deep. We've seen they're already 24, 23-1, 24-1, and they've sustained those injuries, right? They didn't have Williams playing. Chet Holmgren's missed some games. they've still won all of these games. And so I think they're kind of in a class of their own right now. And it's hard to believe, as hard as it sounds to say right now, only 25 games in, it seems like they should have better odds to potentially, eclipse that 73 wins and win 74, just because they're maintaining that focus every game. And even if they do, have a game, they miss some threes, they're still winning those games. They just haven't had really almost any clunkers all season, outside of the loss, which I believe they blew like a 20-point lead to the Trailblazers. So that was kind of the one game where they were up. It wasn't like they were down the whole game and they just kind of blew it. They're a tough team right now to figure out. It's going to be rough for the rest of the NBA, and hopefully they don't get Giannis. That's all we can say.
Well, my friend, you are the Oklahoma City Thunder to our show. We appreciate your time every single Friday. Read them on yahoosports.com/betting. Ben Fawkes, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Have a great weekend, brother.
You too.
Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. It is Friday, and that means it's time to make some picks. We're going to put up the pick six. Look, there was a teaser here. It said, I don't know if you guys are aware of your records. We are back to tied. I had a bad week last week.
Who is right back at it? Your girl.
I swaggy walked through this thing like I was Vince McMahon in the 90s, and that was a mistake. Now she is dancing the victory's dance at 39-39. We're having a year so far. All right, let's keep going. We'll see how we do on this one. We'll go through these games, make some picks. Bills, Ravens. Who you got? Bills, Patriots. Who you got for me?
I'm taking the Bills. I don't feel great about it. I really do not. I don't feel great about James Cook running the ball against this Patriots run defense. I don't feel great about this being in Foxborough, but Josh Allen is inevitable, and I will take his inevitability. I don't think the Bills are going down that easy. I will take the Bills.
So I'll be completely honest with you. I'm taking the Patriots here. You know why I'm taking the Patriots?
Why?
That's really the end of my analysis. Because
it felt like it.
This game is a flip of the coin to me, and I could easily make a laundry list of things that I think the Bills have done well enough this year to be better regarded, and I could also make a laundry list of things that I think the Bills have done this year that make them worse than their record. So I don't know. Like, you're right. Josh Allen's probably going to save the Superman Bills. I get it, but the Patriots have just been slow and steady, wins the race. Drake May hasn't had that big clunker of a game. Travion Henderson is going to be able to. The running backs in general will be able to run against the Bills. I think there is at least enough of a path that I looked at and said, home field, New England, why not? So, look, this game is truly a toss-up to me. I guess maybe in my heart of hearts, I'm hoping this becomes a game where we really learn something about both of these teams because we haven't had that opportunity for a lot of this season. What about Ravens at Bengals? What do you got on this one?
I'm taking the Bengals. I know it's a week-to-week league. I know the transitive property doesn't apply in football. But if the Bengals really should have beaten the Bills last week and it came down to the wire with the Bills, then the Bengals can beat the Ravens.
So the fun fact, we made our picks at very different times, each independently
We
to our
did.
producers. And when I typed in my pick on this one, I thought, ooh, it's going to be spicy. Caroline's not going to see this coming. I took the Bengals. The Bengals, look, this offense, I mean, Joe Burrow with this offense and with the week that they just had, I think it's going to have everybody
Yeah.
on high alert. And yeah, I still think the Bengals defense is absolute garbage. I think it is just, it's worse than burnt turkey on Christmas that you guys smile and pretend that you don't hate. It's all of these things that are terrible. I just don't think the Ravens can take advantage of it. So, look, I am wildly disappointed with Baltimore, and I finally flipped the switch. I'm out. I'm out on the Ravens being able to do anything this year, so I'm out on them in this game. Chargers at Chiefs, backs against the wall for Kansas City. What do you think?
You say you are out on the Ravens. I should be out on the Chiefs. I, however, am not. I will take the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I mean, I'm looking at the Chargers. Short week. They're so banged up. I don't think they're going to be able to get it done against a Chiefs team that is fighting for their lives. We've been saying that the last 5 weeks. I get that. I understand that. This is officially the week. If the Chiefs lose this week, I am out. I will officially be out on the 6-8 Chiefs if it gets to that point. But I don't think they're going to go down that easy. I will take the Chiefs to beat up on the banged up Chargers.
Yeah, especially because this is the other part of it. Looking right now, very cold conditions in Kansas City this weekend with temperatures plummeting, especially by Sunday, potentially bringing near zero wind chills for tailgaters and game day, right? That
No,
for an
thank you.
LA team at Arrowhead with their backs against the walls, give me the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs. I admit it. I'm doing it. I am Charlie Brown, and I deserve it. I still don't understand the physics of why when Charlie Brown kicks and the football is moved, why does he fall? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that he falls. But I'm going to be
Don't ask
Charlie Brown
questions.
yet again. It just seems like his leg would just come back to the ground and he would remain standing. But either way,
Nope.
I will be Charlie Brown, and I will fall flat on my ass yet again, taking the Kansas City Chiefs. And then I'll say, as I've said for 3 weeks in a row, but if they don't do it this week, I'll learn my lesson. No, I won't. No, I won't.
Nope,
I won't
never.
learn my lesson. What about
Never.
Packers at Broncos? This is a big game. Packers at Broncos. What do you got?
I'm taking the Packers, and it feels weird. It feels icky on the road against that defense. But last time I checked my calendar, Fitz, it's Toyota-thon. And I'm not going to bet against Jordan Love in Toyota-thon. I'm not going to bet against a Packers team that's getting hot at the most perfect time. I am riding with Green Bay. Happy Toyota-thon to all those who observe.
I still can't wrap my head around the concept of, hey, honey, for Christmas, I got us debt for the next 5 years and a huge payment that we're going to have to. It's fine. It's fine. We live different Toyota-thon worlds. I'm with you on the Packers. This is all about quarterbacks I trust. And as we get to this point with playoff caliber football teams, very simply, I'm going to ask myself, which quarterback do I think can handle the defense better? Now, Jordan Love is going to have to be really, really, really good. But even if Jordan Love isn't, I'm presuming that by then Josh Jacobs will be able to play. Let's keep an eye on that knee. Plus the weapons he's gotten back with him. I think that there's enough play calling ability to work around some of the Denver defense. On the other side of it, man, all of a sudden you've got Bo Nix taking on this Packers defense that is wildly underrated on the back end. I think there's going to be an opportunity for some picks there. So I honestly think the Packers win this game. I think they can win this game pretty handily. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think the Packers can win this game pretty handily. Although it is Denver, Mile High, that is a little bit of a
Tough
scare
place.
factor for me. What about
But
the
something's got to
Lions
give
going-
for the Broncos, right? Like they've been winning
Yeah.
so many close games. At some point, your luck runs out.
Now, if they win this one, then we can take off the qualifiers, right? Like they win this game, we can all just start admitting that the Broncos clearly look like they can be a Super Bowl champion. Lions
For
at
sure.
Rams. Lions at Rams. So we got the big rematch.
So we've been doing too much agreeing today. And one thing that we've been pretty consistent on disagreeing on this season is, for me, when the question is the NFC, my answer is the Rams. And I feel very good about that. You differ, however, though. So I am going to go with the Rams. Matthew Stafford playing at an MVP level. This Rams offense is inevitable. This Rams defense doesn't get nearly the conversation that it deserves. I will ride with the Rams and a little Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Lions, Rams trade bowl.
I feel like I might have to contact a celebrity chef and find out how to eat some crow on these Rams, because I'm taking the Lions. I'm taking the Lions. Backs against the wall thing just means something to me. Like, it's just the Lions being it's in LA, so weather's not going to be a factor for them. It's still, as I've told you a million times, like, I am running the street team for Jahmyr Gibbs at this point. Like, I've got like a Gibbs t-shirt with this. I don't actually, but I should get a Gibbs t-shirt. I just think the offensive weapons for the Lions will be enough, and this is going to be an absolute shootout of a game. Colts at Seahawks in the Grandpa Bowl. I think we're probably both going the same way on this, but what do you got?
Say it with me now, Fitz. 1, 2, 3, Seattle.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I said
yeah. That team, not the Colts, not Phillip Rivers. I'm nervous. I'm nervous to watch this. I fear it's going to be really ugly to watch for Phillip Rivers, but good opportunity for the Seahawks. So I'm riding with Seattle.
I still, like, weirdly, I hope there's some way that we find out Riley Leonard is healthy enough to play. And that's just because I don't want to see Phillip Rivers get beat up the way I think he's going to get beat up. But this has so little to do with their quarterbacks and everything to do with that Seattle defense that is so stinking good. And also, not for nothing, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to have a nice coming out. A lot of people are going to watch this game to watch Phillip Rivers, and then they're going to find out suddenly that JSN is truly on that same level as Jamar and Justin Jefferson and the greats in the NFL. So we'll see. We differed on a couple of them. We'll see how the standings look next week. Come back Monday. There will be trash talking galore. We'll be right back here 9 a.m. to hang out with you. For Caroline Fenton, I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for joining Yahoo Sports Daily.